Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. Putting in some work over the last couple of days. Finally back at it. Great to see Alabama back on the football field today. We caught them at a variety of places. First, we saw them at the Naylor Stone Media Room where we listened to Nick Saban talk about, this coming year. And I wanted to provide some observations on his opening press conference. I also heard from new offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian, as well as Pete Golding, and I'll talk about what kind of some takeaways from each of those press conferences. And then we saw Alabama in their second practice at Bryant-Denny Stadium. So there's a lot of coverage. Spoke with Tua Tagovailoa today, along with Terrell Lewis. You can catch all the interviews back on BamaInsider.com and, of course, right here on our YouTube page. And I want to start out by talking a little bit about the offense. And before I do that, let me dive in and kind of go over what Nick Saban said today and some major observations and takeaways from his press conference. And I think a good starting point was he talked that the preseason is about discipline. It's about accountability. And it's really important to focus on what you can control today. Said a lot of people are kind of addicted to tomorrow. And I think in society, a lot of us tend to do that sometimes, right? I find myself doing that as well. I think we all do. Instead of just buckling down and doing the things that are actually right in front of you, making sure that right now is correct so that later on can be correct as well. He also talked a lot about the coaches and the new assistant coaches. When you have 7 new assistant coaches, that's important to develop that camaraderie within the coaching staff. I mean, you got Sarkisian. He moved Golding over to the defensive coordinator position. You got Kyle Flood coaching the offensive line. You got Holman Wiggins taking over the wide receivers. You got, just a lot of guys, a lot of changing. Charles Huff to the running backs. On the defensive side, a lot of new faces as well. Charles Kelly, Sal Sinceri, and Brian Baker. So Saban said that the coaches on the defensive side of the ball have really done a great job from a leadership standpoint, and also have done a great job making relationships and positive relationships with the current roster, which is great to note. He also hit on a couple injured players. He said Miller Forrestal, foot, LeBron Ray ankle, and then he said Nigel Knott medical issues. So I think from reading between the lines, Forrestal is going to be a couple days. LeBron Ray, it's going to be an ankle, maybe a week. Nigel Knott, what does medical issues mean? I don't know. I guess we'll have to just wait and find out. Hopefully everything's okay with the kid and, he can get back to working with the Alabama defense. I think with the tight end, with Miller Forrestal being hurt and Kedrick James leaving, we talked about it last time. It's going to open up, an opportunity for one of these tight ends, these younger tight ends, to step up. We've seen Miller Forrestal, who was going to be a guy, but now with him out, you got a guy like Major Tennyson leading the group. He's a redshirt sophomore. Talked about him a little bit in our last program. Then you also have Cameron Latou. And I think over the last 2 days, Jahill Billingsley has really, really impressed me. I wouldn't be surprised if he sees some playing time this year. Saban also talked about the Zach Smith situation, the former Ohio State football coach, assistant football coach. And he said that according to Saban, he didn't offer him a job. He said Zach Smith did apply for a job, but he didn't offer him a job. So that's what he had to say about that. And you can, of course, follow the press conference right here on our YouTube page. Saban also talked about Steve Sarkisian, and what an interview it was hearing Steve Sarkisian today talk about, being back at Alabama and how he felt it's a great opportunity to be back at Alabama, and his relationship with Tua Tagovailoa and the fact that he recruited him and offered him a scholarship when he was at USC, and told a story about when he went to go recruit Tua in Hawaii. There was some very strong winds, and Tua was cutting the wind and throwing the football right through those big Hawaiian winds. And he said he's never seen anything like it. So I thought that was really cool to hear from Sarkisian today. And lastly, Saban touched on offensive lineman Landon Dickerson, who's a new addition from Florida State. He's a grad transfer. And our team writer, Tony Sakalas, asked him about what he's seen so far in Dickerson. And though it's only been 2 days, he said, he's not quite sure if he's a guard or if he's a tackle, but he does like his physical presence, and he's a big, strong kid, and he likes how he's played against good competition. And he's really excited to see what Dickerson can do with the offensive line. So I think that, it's going to be interesting to track Dickerson moving forward. Now, here are my observations from Sarkisian's presser, and I felt it was a great press conference. As I mentioned, he said he was very fortunate to be back at Alabama, and I'm glad to see that his career landed him back at Alabama, because I think there's some unfinished business. He left to be the OC at Atlanta, and now he's back and connects with Tua again. So I think that relationship is going to pay dividends for this offense going into the 2019 season. You're not going to have to see any type of transition just because those two know each other so well. And I think that's going to play a big role with the productivity of the offense overall. Sarkisian said that the class of 2017 is quite simply, he's not surprised to see the success that they've had. And he said that Saban doesn't recruit stars. He, goes off the staff's evaluations. And I think that's important to know. The staff is going to make their evaluations. Recruiting services are going to do their job. But in the end, the coaches, it's their job to not only get these guys to Alabama, but to also develop them into the system. And I thought that was a really good talking point from Sarkisian. He talked about Tua and how he's improved on full field reads. And I think we're all eager to see Tua throughout the season with full field reads. And I think that's something that we're going to have to see possibly during a scrimmage, possibly, against that first game against Duke. And is Alabama going to use a tight end, and how often are they going to use a tight end? Are there going to be 4 wide receivers running downfield, and is Tua going to have that many more options? And that could be very dangerous. If Tua's improved on full field reads and he's hooking up with Sark and they've developed this chemistry that we think they have, Alabama's offense could be even more prolific than they were last year. Sarkisian touched on Jalen Waddle, said that he's a very dynamic player. He said that, he has a very high football IQ, and he said that he could be a scoring threat every single time he touches the football. I think we all know that. And I thought this was very important as well. When Sarkisian was asked today about his philosophy, he said that it starts with the running game. And how important is that? And how excited are you to hear that if you're an Alabama Crimson Tide fan, that his philosophy is based off the running game? And he said that every year he's been an OC, they've always had a 1,000-yard rusher. He then went on to talk about Najee Harris and the fact that besides looking in the part from a physical standpoint, and that he's similar to backs that Alabama has had in the past, he's also a great receiver out of the backfield. And he said that he's been pleasantly surprised with all of Alabama's running backs, how they've caught the football out of the backfield. And that could be something that adds Alabama another dimension to this offensive attack. Because think about it. If you have 4 wide receivers and the defense is worried about Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, and Henry Ruggs, and you have a running back who can also make plays out of the backfield, that's going to be fantastic for the group going forward. And then he mentioned that Trey Sanders, from what he's seen early on, he was a summer enrollee, that he's a very hard worker and someone who's very serious about football. I saw Trey Sanders today for the first time. Saw a couple of glimpses of him yesterday, but today I was able to really watch him, for a couple minutes during the media availability period. And I really like everything that I see about this young man. Very good cuts, very agile, turns the football upfield, has that make you miss attribute, and very good footwork. Just watch him in footwork. As soon as I get enough footage, I'll put something together really nice on Trey Sanders, just so you can see the talent that Alabama has in that freshman running back class. And of course, Jerome Ford's right there. Keelan Robinson, I'm glad to see him out there. And Sark said that Keelan Robinson is another guy who can really catch the football out of the backfield. Now, moving on to my observations from Pete Golding's press conference. And of course, you can catch all the press conferences back on our YouTube channel or on BamaInsider.com. He's very confident in Josh McMillan and his ability. And he said that, he's an engineering major, so he has a high IQ off the field and on the field. And then he has great leadership abilities, and that's transitioned well with the rest of the running back room. Now, I'm kind of curious, is Josh McMillan going to be the guy next to Dylan Moses? Probably so, but I think that talent-wise, there might be a couple guys better at the inside linebacker position from a talent perspective, but it comes down to being knowledgeable out on the field as well. So I guess we'll have to figure out that inside linebacker position going forward, but I think there's nothing really to worry about because you have such a quality depth at the inside linebacker position, guys who are younger, who are very talented. Markel Benton, Shane Lee, Jalen Moody, Ali Cajo, a lot of guys getting in that mix. Golding said that he wanted to use fall camp to see if there was any depth chart issues or weaknesses. And he said that you can never really tell if you have a weakness because football is always changing. The roster is always shifting. There might be an injury here or there. So you don't know what type of issues there are, going day to day because things do fluctuate. And I get that. It was just a great interview to hear Golding speak about his background of his father being a coach and that he's completely focused on this job at Alabama. He's not worried about a future job. He's not worried about something else that may come down the road. And similar to what Saban said, he's not addicted to tomorrow. He's focused on these guys right now, getting this defense better. And I think he's very confident in the assistant coaches that he has around him. Sal Sinceri, Brian Baker, Charles Kelly. Think about it. Pete Golding's a young mind, probably one of the best in college football. And he has those older men around him with so much football knowledge just as a support system. Think about Pete Golding's only going to get better from a defensive perspective, which is scary, to the rest of the college football world because he's already a great defensive mind. He got his first DC job at 22 years old, if you can believe that. Golding said that he wants to play a lot of bodies with the defensive line, kind of get guys shifting around, wants to see if these guys are capable enough to do that. Right now you have Raekwon Davis, LeBron Ray, DJ Dell, Fedarian Mathis. So who else can rise up? Is it going to be a Christian Barmore? Is it going to be an Ismail Shropshire? What else is going to happen? Then lastly, Golding talked about Josh Jobe and said that he's made some big strides, especially against Clemson. I think we all saw that. He stepped in against one of the most dominating receiver groups in the country, and he played with a lot of confidence. And he said he got a lot of his confidence during the bowl season. And I think, reading between the lines, it sounds like Josh Jobe is going to get major playing time for the 2019 season, which is a good thing for the Crimson Tide. I also talked with Tua Tagovailoa today, and he said a lot of his offseason was geared towards getting healthy, eating right, getting a lot of sleep. And I think that's important for the young athletes out there that idolize Tua. You always have to look at yourself. Where can I improve? Of course, Tua is one of the most gifted passers out there, but where does he need to improve? And obviously Tua felt that was getting healthy, eating right, getting sleep, and knowing when to go in for treatment. And I thought, it's very admirable to listen to Tua speak because he carries himself so well. He speaks like he's a lot older than he is, and I give the kid a lot of credit in that regard. He talked about his relationship with Sarkisian and, how they go way back and how they have gone out to dinner to talk about things and to talk about this offense. And, obviously they just have such a great cohesiveness. And as I keep saying, it's only going to pay dividends for those two moving forward. Tua also said that a lot of the things that he worked on over the offseason was building relationships with the new players coming in and also with the other players on the roster. Talk about a team leader, right? He also said he watches the Alabama and Clemson game, and he says it's the little things that equate to the outcome of the game. For example, if the players can't hear the cadence when, they're in the red zone, that leads to someone jumping off sides, and the whole drive downfield stalls out. So it's the little things that add up to the bigger picture. Also spoke with Terrell Lewis, and I said earlier yesterday that he looked great during the first day of camp. Saban said the same thing. I said, you were 100%. He said, yeah, I'm 100%. If there was a game tomorrow, he'd be ready to go. So that's great news for Crimson Tide fans. He said that Kevin Harris and King Makuta are two younger guys who are really looking good. And this was another great point. Terrell Lewis said, that he cherishes every single moment, and he knows what it's like to miss the football season. Talking about a guy who has a lot of time to make up. But he said, Saban told him, hey, when you're hurt right now, watch as much film as you can. Develop your football IQ, because in the pros, you don't practice all the time as much as you practice in college football. It's more attention to detail and knowing exactly how the field works just based off the mental aspect of the game. And Terrell Lewis said he just did that. And he also worked on being a coach off the field to better support his teammates. So all in all, I thought it was a fantastic day. Got to speak with a lot of guys, so you can catch all those interviews on BamaInsider.com. But I wanted to just provide some observations from Saban, from Sarkisian, from Golding, from Tua, from Terrell Lewis, the team leaders for this Crimson Tide team. And I really would like to encourage you to become a premium subscriber to BamaInsider.com. You're probably thinking, why subscribe? You know, I'm getting my information right here on YouTube. Well, there's a lot of information that you're not getting, and you're not getting it fast enough because it's distributed on the premium paywall as soon as we get the information. And that's where we really dive in and talk with thousands of Crimson Tide fans on an instant basis. So I would love the opportunity for you guys to come over to BamaInsider.com, either become a free member for 30 days or take us up on our advantage right now. You can get $75 in Adidas team gear and 25% off your annual subscription. What do you have to lose? You can get all the recruiting scoop from Andrew Bone, all the content from myself, Kyle Henderson, and Tony Tsoukalis. You know, there's a ton of content. There's no reason you should not at least check it out if you're a hardcore Alabama Crimson Tide football fan. And I would really appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. You know, I feel that you know, we could provide a great avenue for you guys to connect with other Crimson Tide football fans. And, you know, so I would greatly appreciate that. But I will be back on Monday. That is August 5th. Alabama will hold their third practice. And I know there's a lot of you that want to see the defensive line, that want to see, you know, the running back. So as soon as we're able to get enough footage, we'll continue to upload it to the YouTube channel. We'll continue to, you know, post it on BamaInsider.com. We'll continue to break it down. We're just days away from Alabama and Duke. I appreciate you guys sticking around. And of course, the call-in show is coming up soon right here on BamaInsider.com. Reporting from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. No, wait. Reporting from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. This is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com.